I'm Stephanie Zanbetter. I'm a physical therapist at Gaylord Hospital. I am a clinical specialist in stroke, and for today's video, we're going to be talking about stroke technology and advocacy for stroke survivors. So certainly we know that technology exists on both high-tech as well as low-tech types of tools that can help stroke survivors in their recovery. We're going to talk about a couple of, so I'll say low-tech tools, but extremely helpful and beneficial tools that an individual may be exposed to in their time here at the hospital working with us. And so this is a particular tool utilized for eating. It's a rocker knife. So for an individual who is not able to use both hands with respect to holding a fork and cutting with a knife, right? That ability to use that rocker knife is a one-handed action to help with cutting. This particular tool is designed to help individuals with respect to getting dressed if there's a button or a button-down shirt, right? Sort of to kind of hook through and help with fastening that button. Once again, sometimes can be done, right, with a single hand, but for some, if they don't have the dexterity in their fingers or their coordination, then use of a tool to help with that piece might be beneficial. These are particularly helpful with, we're talking about some of the other activities of daily living, especially with respect to bathing, using a long-handled sponge, which can be offered by your occupational therapist, can help with, of course, reaching those places that might otherwise be challenging if you're trying to do another side or something of that nature. This one in particular is a plate guard and a bent-handled fork. So again, with respect to being able to eat, the plate guard kind of helps the food with not leaving the plate, right? And that bent-handled fork helps with sort of being able to not only scoop the food, but also to naturally pierce it. And so your occupational therapist can help with introducing some of these different types of tools should they be necessary and or helpful to you while eating naturally. This one should be pretty familiar to a lot of people, right? Is a commode, which is one of the first things that we hear from folks. You know, we talk in therapy about goals, what is most important to you, and I will tell you all of the time, the first goal I hear for people, and they'll even say, you know, I have a lot of goals, but this is my most important one. So I say, okay, let me hear it. It's always, I want to be able to go to the bathroom by myself, which clearly makes sense, right? As adults, that we're used to being able to take care of that function without assistance. And so being able to go to the bathroom, even just from an upright position, is a goal for many, and not all are achieving that within, given how the stroke has impacted their mobility. And so being able to use a commode is an important tool, and one that can be certainly placed over a toilet, right, and or bedside, which can be helpful for our stroke survivors in being able to get to that goal sooner versus later. There are many tools that are utilized in stroke survivors' recovery for walking. This particular tool is a hemi walker that is able to be used on one side of the body, and that can help individuals that are not able to use perhaps a walker, right, where you might need function of both hands or arms. And in addition to that, we have a number of different canes that might be utilized to help individuals in being able to walk after stroke. This is a really important one. We spoke in another video on communication and some of the communication impairments that stroke survivors will experience. And so your speech therapist may issue for you a communication board. And that's something that might assist you with being able to communicate certainly with your loved ones, communicate basic needs with the staff, even just to sort of get your point across. And they come in a number of different functions and complexities. Your speech therapist will introduce the tool and then help you with designing it to best meet your needs. Some of you may benefit from voice activated. Most individuals have smartphones now, and so the ability to use, you know, the Hey Siri and continue on can be helpful with being able to make phone calls or text or those types of functions if we're trying to, again, be able to engage with family members. Gaylord is also very fortunate to have access to a number of different types of technology that are useful to stroke survivors in their recovery. So we're going to talk now about some of those tools that are most helpful to our stroke survivors. This picture that we're looking at here with the individual that sort of has the feet in there, you might see it in there, something around the calf there. That's actually the L300 Go. This is a piece of equipment that essentially has a stim pad there that is applied to the calf The purpose of that stim pad is essentially to stimulate the nerve, which then triggers the muscle to perform the action of being able to lift the foot. And so many stroke survivors are impacted by what we call foot drop after a stroke, whereby an individual is not able to raise the foot or lift the toes, if you will, as they are walking. This particular device helps with performing that action. The next picture here below is our Ekso. And so where you see here, the gentleman is using a walker, and what you may not be able to see, but I'll describe for you, is a suit. So Ekso is a robot that is worn on the outside of the body. It is designed to help individuals with being able to stand and to walk. It is very beneficial even for those that are able to walk if we're trying to work on building endurance, or if we were talking about earlier difficulties with being able to have good motor control or perhaps balance. This tool is also particularly effective for folks who may have difficulty with respect to midline positioning. We talked about how some folks after a stroke are used to kind of keeping their weight over their strong side, and now we are working with them on being able to tolerate their weight right on their weaker side to sort of build their strength and their endurance with walking. This is another one with respect to communicating after a stroke. So many stroke survivors will be working with their speech therapists on a communication board, which can be developed to help the individual with being able to access either photos or words, or to build phrasing to help with being able to communicate, particularly with those individuals who may be impacted by aphasia and or oral motor apraxia. One of my most favorite tools that we have in our therapy department is our body weight supported 0G. This device is fantastic in that it is able to assist many of our stroke survivors and reach kind of a broader range. So for those individuals who are already walking, we are able to program the device to help with offering resistance or working on balance recovery and walking. It is also a fortunate tool to have in getting someone just up and standing for the first time and being able to take those initial steps and progress with standing endurance and walking endurance, and many of those things that are impacted by our stroke survivors in their recovery. Our BIT system is a great piece of equipment that we utilize here on a number of different levels. Our occupational therapist will use this piece of technology to assist individuals with their ability to scan, to visually track, to work on eye-hand coordination, to work on fine motor coordination and dexterity. Our physical therapist will use this device to work on maybe attention and scanning while challenging their balance. And our speech therapist may use this device as well with respect to memory and attention, being able to work on recognition of objects, numbers, and letters, if we're talking about helping an individual to work on communication and recognition of those particular items. The brake reaction test is an important piece of technology, although not giving clearance, right, to return to driving, and we'll talk about that in a little while, but ultimately is a very nice piece of equipment that offers a laptop screen, and so there's a sort of a simulation that kind of takes place. The individual then has a steering wheel and then a gas and a brake plate. Naturally, the purpose of use of this technology is to assist the individual with respect to evaluating reaction time to braking. Your occupational therapist may assist you with trialing this piece of equipment. As I said, it does not give one a clearance to drive. However, it does give information to one important component of driving, and as I said, that is regarding your reaction time to braking. I believe in a former slide we talked about the L300 Go. This particular piece of equipment is particularly beneficial for those individuals who present with foot drop after a stroke. That's again where there's weakness in the foot or ankle, which prevents the stroke survivor to be able to take a step with that foot and place their heel down and or lift their toes as they're walking. And so with this device, there's a stimulation pad that is worn around the calf that triggers the nerve, or stimulates the nerve, I should say, which then triggers the muscle to perform the action of lifting the foot. And so the other piece that is, there's some additional components to this device. that can also work on stimulating the quadriceps muscles. That's the big muscle in the front of the thigh that helps with extending the knee, right, which is important, of course, for standing, as well as the hamstring, which is that larger group of muscles in the back of the thigh. And that's important for individuals, particularly if they are working on knee control with walking post-stroke. I believed I spoke a little bit earlier on the Ekso device. Ekso is once again a robot that is worn on the outside of the body. It is designed to help individuals being able to stand and walk after a stroke. It can be beneficial for individuals for working on standing tolerance, standing endurance, helping an individual with equal weight bearing. It can be helpful from a strength perspective in having that individual, through guided facilitation in the device, being able to take steps. It can also be a helpful tool if we're working on weight shifting, which is an important component of walking. On the subject of advocacy for stroke survivors, it exists on a number of different levels, of course. One of the most important, naturally, is being able to know, where can I go for more information, right? And so what are before you here are a number of different websites, and I lovingly refer to the internet, Dr. Google can tell you anything you want to know, right? And so it's really important that we know where we're going for information, that we're accessing information that is certainly going to be coming from, if you want, a reputable source. And so naturally you'll see Gaylord's website, whereby you can certainly search for some information. And the other sites that are there are some national organizations that are really excellent with respect to having information that is, I'll say, delivered in a way that is patient-friendly or caregiver-friendly as well. Clinicians like myself will also utilize these websites for information on research and other information pertaining to stroke. Home safety and fall prevention are very important in a stroke survivor's recovery. We spoke earlier about how a stroke survivor is impacted physically after a stroke, particularly with respect to weakness on one side of the body. We talked about how, certainly understandable that if one side of the body is not functioning as it previously did, that balance is impacted. With balance impacted following a stroke, so is, of course, safety with mobility. And so some of the different types of tools that we have to help individuals in being more safe and or recognition, if you want, of fall recovery. I think most folks have seen the commercials on TV for Life Alert, but for those of you that haven't, ultimately, this is a tool that might be helpful for those folks who live alone maybe and or wish to have something that they can have where if they needed help quickly, they could just essentially push a button, right? Some folks opt to just keep their cell phones with them. There's a number of different ways that you can kind of set things up so that way, if you needed help quickly, you'd be able to get that assistance. Returning to work is an important goal for many of our stroke survivors, particularly our young stroke survivors, as well as those that were previously working and wish to be able to return to some form of employment at some point in time in their recovery after stroke. There's a number of different ways in which this can occur. For most folks in the inpatient setting, while this may not be the biggest focus because we're working on the skills of regaining independence with mobility and being able to leave the hospital, this is an important skill, if you want, and goal to be addressed certainly once individual has left the hospital. And then so many individuals in our outpatient setting will be working with their therapists on perhaps if it's a functional capacity assessment or evaluation. Some will be having some referrals for neuropsychological testing to be performed. And that's several assessments that are done that can evaluate cognition and attention, all those things that are important with respect to whatever type of employment or job you carried. There are a number of organizations that are out there to help stroke survivors with seeking assistance for vocational rehab as well. One of the most important things to recognize if we're talking about returning to work is that most employers certainly will wish for you to have medical clearance, okay? And so it is important, naturally, if you are hoping to return to work, that you get medical clearance from your doctor. With respect to, again, that continued goal of returning to work, these are just a few websites that are beneficial. The BRS, the Bureau of Rehabilitation Services, and Easter Seals as well, are sites that can be helpful to the stroke survivor in being able to get information on returning to work or returning to some form of employment, as well as being able to understand sort of ways of getting back into the workforce or what barriers may be incurred in trying to return to a previously held position, right? So good resources to check out. Many of our stroke survivors hope to return to driving after stroke, and so with respect to the recommendations for returning to driving, it is most important, of course, that you get medical clearance from your doctor before attempting to resume driving. We often get asked the question, well, which doctor? I have so many, and that's a fair question. You can ask your doctors here in the hospital, although many of them will tell you to wait until after you've left the hospital, so you're now discharged and home and likely working in outpatient therapy. Most of you will have follow-up visits with your physicians, likely your primary care physician. Many of you as stroke survivors will also be followed by a stroke clinic and likely a neurologist who will help you in your recovery after stroke in the different phases. Right? And at that point in time, you can certainly ask about the return to driving. Some physicians will make a recommendation for a return to driving assessment or test. And this is something that can be done, again, on an outpatient basis. There are several organizations that have this capacity to evaluate one's ability to return to driving. Many times it's coordinated through an occupational therapist and someone who has a special certification in returning to driving. And there's a number of assessments that are done to help with evaluating that ability and or any accommodations that might be beneficial to assist someone in returning to driving safely. What we tell folks that are here and inpatient and hoping to return to driving after their stroke is to certainly feel comfortable in asking your doctors, or at least letting them know, of course, and also maybe asking your occupational therapist for a return to driving folder. And there's an assessment that they can do with you. They can assess perhaps that brake reaction test that we talked about earlier, which evaluates, again, your reaction time in braking. And although not a clearance to return to driving, does again give you that information as far as that important component of. There are a number of different resources available to you with respect to not just financial assistance, and usually for questions that we get asked in therapy regarding, financial responsibilities, I don't get too many of those, but I will tell you that for those that do have the question, we'll often direct you to your care manager who can help you with respect to knowing which resources to go to. Many times there's an application process if we're talking about trying to contact an employer for short-term disability or something of that process if we're talking about returning to work. Right? There's a number of different organizations out there as far as trying to be able to work on ride accessibility and or assistance with being able to get disability housing and those types of things. We don't assist individuals here with obtaining new housing, although we will assist you if necessary with making recommendations from a home accessibility perspective as far as whether or not you might need a ramp to enter your home, if you need a significant amount of assistance in doing stairs, or if stairs are deemed unsafe at time of discharge, right? Whether or not you might benefit from handrails or other types of equipment to make your home more accessible. There are a number of different advocacy and support groups available to you and to our stroke survivors, certainly while here in the hospital. We have support groups that run the first Thursday of every month. Our stroke support group runs from 3:30 to 4:30. It is offered to individuals who are certainly in-house and working with us, but also those that are in the community, many of whom have been coming for a time and participate, some in person and some via Zoom, depending upon transportation needs and or timing and all of those other types of important things. We also offer for those folks who are not necessarily committed to participating in support groups in a group setting, or maybe not comfortable with that just yet in their recovery, we offer one-on-one opportunity to meet with a peer mentor. And this is an individual, many of them have actually gone through our program and are now home. They have offered to become volunteers and have participated in some training to become a peer mentor. And they will come and meet with you on a one-on-one basis ultimately, and it's an opportunity for you to hear their story. Many of them are happy to share their experience with you. They're happy if you have questions and wanted to ask them. And if you wish to also share your story, it's just sort of an informal exchange. I'm Stephanie Zanmetter. Thank you once again for watching, and I hope that you'll be able to access some of our additional videos from Gaylord on stroke recovery.